Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to a very special holiday edition of The Grid. And what makes it such a special holiday tradition? Well, my friends, we have a very special guest, a guest that has come all the way from the freezing north down here to our studios in Florida to spread love. In fact, his name means love in 7 languages. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, by the way, that was ado, Mr. Joe McNally. Joe! How you doing, buddy?
Going? Good to see you.
Good to have you here, man.
I thought it was a Christmas edition because of Brad's beard.
Brad's beard. I didn't want to mention it, but it really is because of Brad's beard. Because Brad's beard is the thing that gives life.
I didn't know that.
No, he does. Hey, good to have you here, though, man.
Thanks.
So
happy to be
we have
here.
a whole bunch of things. Today is Ask Joe Anything, and and if you can ask him anything, there's no, you can ask whatever you want. There's no limits unless we feel that it's a limit or inappropriate. But you can ask anything. We just may not read it. But today is just a wide open Q&A with Joe, and Joe, I have a lot of questions.
Uh-oh.
I have some very probing questions. I just want to give you a couple of heads up so you can think about it.
Sure.
I'm going to want to know your adjusted gross income.
Okay.
I'm going to want to know if you've ever been convicted, not arrested, but convicted.
Okay.
And we'll take it from there. But we've got some important things before we get with Joe, just because you're wondering, where's RC? Can I show you where RC is? He's right here.
What's going on, everybody?
RC, what are you doing in Brad's spot? What's Brad doing in your spot?
Well, as it turns out, this setup was entirely too sexy for Brad.
Okay, that's not exactly it. You're warm, though. Okay, here's what it is. RC's sick as a dog. He's sick. Brad is not sick.
Nope.
So here's what happened. RC's been out at work for a couple of days, and he's just hacking and everything, and he's got all these terrible things coming out of him. Anyway, so he's like, hey, I want to come in for the grid today. Now, RC's officially on vacation, too, by the way. But because Joe's here, it's Joe. I've got to go on the grid. So he says, I want to come in. And I said, you can't come in if you're sick. He goes, no, I'm fine. RC comes in, he's hacking all over everybody. We go, you go to Brad's set. Brad comes over here. Look at him. You don't even look healthy.
I do look healthy.
I tell you what, though, you're freaking well lit. What
I
happens
look,
to people
I
on that
look
set over
radiant.
there?
It's the lighting.
It's
It
the
is
light.
the
I look
lighting.
very radiant. I have a very nice.
Yeah, you're
I have a very
luminous
Burl Ives
today.
kind of look right here going to it. And let me tell you a story about the reindeer. Back in my time, we used to
Okay,
play around
there
with-
is no time. All right, so we moved Brad over here today, and this way you get to see Brad not as well lit. Do you notice, like, look at our skin tone, like where our skin tone is bluish, right? Now go back to RC. Now RC,
latte.
no, it is latte, but you're not that warm in person.
No,
I'm looking at you with my own eyes. And
Oh, you
but on the
mean
screen, you're lovely, and then you come back to us, and we look like we all have like some kind of thing.
I
Did you
look
just
like
call RC lovely?
He's a lovely person, and his skin is it's unbelievable.
it's flawless.
Okay, it's flawless. Thank you. That's what I was thinking. Anyway, we have a great show for you today. Brad's here. Hey, Brad.
What's up? What's up?
He brings a lot to the show.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Well, I am going to be.
Sup?
I'm still doing the live chat stuff, so I'm going to be kind of on my computer here. So if it looks like I'm doing other stuff, that's because I am.
He is. He's checking his email. He's on Facebook. He's shopping for the holidays, all that kind of stuff.
I have
All
not
right.
done a single bit of shopping. I need
Okay.
to start. So
You haven't done any? Dude, I did some already. It's I haven't ordered your present yet, but I have to take a loan. Anyway, so Joe, before we get to the questions, and you guys, you can send in your questions now, except for we can't see them because the thing where the questions is turned off.
that's what I'm doing here.
Is
I can
that
ask
thing
them.
broken?
No, it's just not connected to this because
Oh.
it was hooked up over there.
Oh,
and then
you're just
we
gonna show
switched.
us?
We switched last second, so I'll just have to read the questions from here.
Okay, good enough. So Joe, you were one of the busiest people in the world. I get exhausted looking at your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed because you are all over. Can you just kind of encapsulate your year because you've been everywhere and done everything?
Well, thankfully we're busy. I'm always thankful to be busy as a freelance photographer. You want to be busy, and so this year was pretty accelerated in that regard. We did a lot of traveling. I taught some workshops for National Geographic this year, which is kind of par for the course.
Where'd you go?
Well, I was in New York City. I was down in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
That's nice.
Next year I'm
That's
doing what they've instituted a series of advanced workshops, and we're bringing that to San Francisco in the spring, and then coming coming back to New York City in the fall. So
Nice.
that's fun. And, I do my blog, and, we're the usual things that a lot of photographers are engaged in now, trying to hang in there in the marketplace. The gratifying things that happened this year that were big projects was that we had a lot of assigning work. We did a couple of ads, series of ads actually over the summer, which was really important for the studio. And then also, kind of a labor of love was a one-man show that we staged at the Monroe Gallery in Santa Fe.
That was awesome.
35 years of shooting, distilled down to roughly 50 or so images on a wall in a room in Santa Fe, and it was very thought-provoking. It was very emotional. I flew my whole studio down there. Everybody, we're kind of a bit of a family, and my studio manager, Lynn, has been with me for 23 years.
She's amazing.
She
Lynn
is.
is one of the most amazing people.
She is
awesome.
You want a good grid guest?
Lynn,
Del Mastro and the Business of Photography.
she's good.
I'd watch that.
She's awesome.
Our staff here, they got to work with her a little bit, and they're like, oh my God, she is so good.
Well, as we speak, we have just gotten a major series of ads for the third week of January, and she is cranking full tilt boogie. It's one thing to go out and wander about and shoot some pictures, and I love to do that. Editorial work also tends to be fairly simple. I did a couple of very fun editorial jobs this year that had me intersect with some phenomenal people. I did the first cover try for the first book of Jeter Publishing.
Oh, yeah.
Derek Jeter
Jeter's
is
right,
going
yeah.
into publishing, and so I photographed a man named Ed Lucas, who's a blind sports writer, if you can imagine. What a phenomenal man. Trained himself to listen to the ball. He was blinded by a baseball. This whole man's whole life revolved around a baseball. It was a very emotional couple of hours that I spent with him. Wonderful, wonderful guy. That's one genre. You intersect with that person, make a few pictures, and you're gone. But commercial work, oh my goodness, rights, rates, permissions, locations, insurance, RVs, hair, makeup, styling, wardrobe.
It's a production.
It's off the charts, the amount of work. And there's nobody better at it than Lynn.
Oh yeah, she seriously is. She's just a wonderful person. You're very blessed to have her working for you. Yeah.
I think
it's working with you.
I think
you work for her.
That's really the case. Lynn actually, at one point, because we have a very, very straightforward, kind of business kind of thing. I'm the engine, such as it is, that's pulling the train here. She looked at me at one point. She goes, you're a racehorse. It's my job to keep you on the track.
Ah, there you go.
And that's the unromantic aspect of staying in business as a photographer. You have to stay busy. You have to turn your pictures into money. You have to turn your time into money. And there's a whole variety of ways of doing that, of course, and we have a pretty good mix right now. I'm very thankful for it. I never, ever get confident of it because I've seen some very, very bad times as a photographer that we've had to survive and weather those storms. Every photographer, I think, has had those periods in their life where they're at a creative dry spell or a financial dry spell or whatever it might be. But we're bopping along. I'll say that. I'll say cautiously, we're hanging in there.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, now Joe, I want to just mention you mentioned your showing at the Monroe Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there on vacation this year. And we went in to look at, and you had some prints hanging in there in the gallery before your showing. We saw that was just a treat seeing those. And then when you had your thing, RC actually went out there for your opening.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question. A few days later, did you develop a cough? Anything like a scratchy throat, a cough, runny nose? A few days later?
No.
72 hours
no.
later?
Well, it's the dry heat of Santa Fe. You don't get sick out there. But no, I was very gratified. I was so grateful to RC that he made the trek out there. I mean, the Monroes love him because he wanders around the gallery and he's always fascinated with the history of the prints, which is, to me, the history of photography is very important. And I think RC and I share that mutual sort of passion for that. And the show was well received. I was, what can I say? I mean, as a photographer, after you go through all this, the fact of anybody still wanting to look at your pictures, to me, that's always A, surprising, like, whoa, really? And B, it's gratifying that a few pictures over the course of time have stuck with you and are still worth looking at.
Yeah, it's still worth looking at. You're a very humble man.
And it's important it's also just important to be able to just highlight most of this stuff. I mean, a lot of the times people hear about the Monroe and what happens with that, but the people that are featured there at the Monroe, I mean, it's not a small feat, and he won't say it, but we'll talk about it. But it's, I mean, you have Margaret Burke White, you have Carl Maidens, you have all of these people that are just Eisenstadt and legends in that space. So just to be kind of in that same spot with all of these people, it's a testament in of itself. And yeah, the show was phenomenal. And people came out of the woodwork. It's like we were out there, and there's people that drove like 12, 14 hours. This is a guy who was sitting there, he was just like, I drove 14 hours on a bus just to be here, just to be in front of these pictures. So it was a great, great time. The Monroe Gallery puts out on a great exhibit. So it's
cool.
more than just, it was more than just a show, it was the show. So that part I thought was pretty cool.
All right. Hey, this is kind of unrelated to it, but you mentioned Lynn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have an assistant, Lynn, too. And I always try to tell Lynn, hey, Lynn, when I'm taping a show, don't put things on my calendar, don't text me, and don't send emails, because it all pops up on my screen, and I'm seeing these things come in here.
I just sent her a text saying, hey, you might want to not do that while we're on a live show.
While we're on the air, someone could walk over to Lynn's office. So we're in our new offices, right? You don't have to get in a car and drive anymore. We can actually just walk over there. If someone would actually take a bucket of freezing cold water, walk by her office, toss it in, but don't tell her why. Just say, that'll be the last time you add a calendar thing to Scott's calendar during a live taping.
Hey, congratulations, though, by the way. By the way, those offices and everything.
Thanks.
Those are nice.
Thanks.
Yeah,
We still have a bunch of construction going on, but we're in there. We got in this week. So, hey, big news. Kathy Porepsky is in our studio audience, which is always big news, and like that. All right, are we ready to take? Let's take a break. I think we should take a break. I do want to mention we got giveaways today, including one of the giveaways is one of the best books ever written in the history of photography, The Moment It Clicks, by this man here, Mr. Joe McNally. You'll sign it while you're here? Sign a copy for him?
Absolutely.
So we'll send you a signed copy of Joe's books. And we have other giveaways, too. I don't know what they are. Do you know what they are?
No.
So I bet on the break someone will hand us some giveaways
No,
to
we
give
could
away.
do. You got 3 seminars coming up at the end of January. We can give away some tickets.
Oh, I do. I have 3 new seminars coming up in the, it's not new seminars, 3 cities. I'm winding down my Shoot Like a Pro tour, and I'm going to go back and do the Shoot Like a Non-Pro tour. No, I've got 3 cities left, and they're like...
Columbus, Ohio, Richmond, Virginia, and Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yep. It's the...
The 26th, the 28th, and the 30th.
That's the dates. Thank you. Brad's like an encyclopedia
of
meaningless knowledge. No, that's important stuff.
You got a gift.
I just put together.
You got a gift.
Right.
I just put together tomorrow's blog post for your blog, and that's how I remembered.
That's good. Thursday is Free Stuff Thursday. We always give away something on Thursday, don't we?
Yeah, a ticket to your seminars.
Awesome. Hope to see you there. All right, so we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be taking your questions for a one Joe McNally, who, by the way, did not happen to mention any of the other things he did this year. Did you speak at Golf Photo this year?
I did, yep, and going back again next year.
Did you speak in Hong Kong at all this year?
I did. I was
Did you
in Hong
speak
Kong.
any place else? All over the United States with your tour?
I taught in the United Kingdom twice, and yeah, we rattled around pretty good this year.
You rattled around. You know, Joe's a frequent flyer. You're a silver medallion now?
Yeah, I just made silver.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, your questions direct with Mr. Joe. Brad's monitoring your things. RC's sick, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Here's from RC.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay Adler, and I'm a fashion photographer based in New York City. And what I'm going to do today is share with you the essentials of the business of fashion photography. Everything from how to plan your first shoot, how to get published in magazines, and then also the complicated bits about what to charge and keeping track of all of the different elements that go together into being a professional fashion photographer.
Hey everybody, I'm Pete Collins and I've got a great holiday class for you here. It's all about taking those Christmas photos on Christmas morning. If you've just got a brand new DSLR and you want to know how to make them better, sharper, faster, and not drive your family crazy, this class is for you.
Hey, we're back. Scott Kelby here with our special in-studio guest, Mr. Joe McNally. Hi, Joe.
How's it going, Scott?
Do you know Brad?
I do know Brad. In fact, Brad and I used to work together years ago.
At a deli?
He was my first assistant, but you recall I lost him to you in a card game.
In a card game.
Yep.
The strip
You know
poker.
what? Joe's a phenomenal photographer, but he has a tell when he plays poker.
Yeah. And so I lost Brad in that transaction, and he's been with you ever since.
Yeah, 6 years now?
Yeah.
And I've been suicidal for 5 of them. Okay, and we have RC here today, who's in our intensive care unit.
What's going on, everybody? How are you?
So for those of you who are just joining us, which is 3 of you, RC, oh God, look, she's adding more things. Sorry, RC. There's like things are popping up on my phone. Like, really?
No,
now
it's
now she's just doing it to be mean. This is how you feeling, RC?
The intensive care unit is doing pretty good.
Are you
It's
doing all right?
You know what? I'm actually, while I'm here, I'm sitting there, I'm interacting with the people in the chat. There's a lot of people in the chat that are asking a bunch of questions. Let me just get, can I get one of them out
Yeah.
to you, Joe, before
Yeah.
we do that? Question for Joe. Which photographers are you inspired from the most? And what is your favorite photograph that you've shot recently?
That's
Your
two-
recent
two-
fantasy
that's two
work with
questions.
Nikon was fantastic. That's Ben from Boston. So I guess let's break it down into 2 questions.
Yeah.
What photographer are you inspired from the most?
Lots of them, that's the first reaction I have. If I had a special place in my heart for a photographer, it would be Carl Mydans. Carl was my hero at Life magazine. He was my mentor in many ways. Carl was a historian and a scholar and a gentleman and an orator and a photographer. And he was a photographer, almost least of those things, but he was still a great photographer. He had nerves of steel. He was taken prisoner of war in the Pacific Front during World War II, and was returned later on with his wife Shelley in a prisoner of war exchange, and they went right back into the front. And Carl was about yay big. He wasn't a tall man, but he had, as I say, he had gumption with a camera, and he had confidence, and he was willing to share that confidence with other photographers. And that was so enormously gratifying to me to actually just have time with him as a young photographer. This unbelievable legend. He's the guy who made the MacArthur wading ashore picture in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah?
And as legend has it, and I'm sure there's various interpretations here, but here's the thing: when a photographer knows his subject well, MacArthur's launch, and this is a secondhand story, so veracity aside here a little bit, there might be variations. The LST that was approaching the dock with MacArthur in it, Carl's in that LST, and he said, General MacArthur's not going to clamber out of an LST onto a dock. He knew MacArthur's ego. And sure enough, he heard the engines reverse. And the LST started to pull back from the dock. And as I say, Carl wasn't a big man. He took a running leap, and he jumped off the LST onto the dock. And he sprinted down the beach, because MacArthur had the LST back out, come up in the surf, drop the gangway, and MacArthur strode ashore. His return to the Philippines, there's Carl.
Wow.
Got the shot.
Got the shot. Wow. Anybody else?
Oh, sure. I mean, folks here who are involved with Kelby One, Jay Maisel, just a legend and an inspiration. And I wrote a paper about Jay when I was in school, and now I call him a friend. And that's one of those mysteries of a long photographic career that are, great rewards. But, I assisted Gordon Parks once. Gordon Parks was an amazingly creative man. The older photographers, and then of course newer photographers, or contemporaries. David Burnett, for instance, just a phenomenally skilled photojournalist. Intelligent photographers, just Dan Winters.
Oh, yeah.
A man who's just crazy confident of his own vision. I don't even know him. I've never met him, but I just embrace his photography. Oh gosh, I could go on. I mean, my photographic imagination responds to lots of different imagery. I love David LaChapelle. I mean, he is out there,
He's
man.
out there.
He is
But he's
definitely
really good.
Albert Watson.
Yeah.
Albert Watson. He has a book called Cyclops, which this phenomenal photographer did this book called Cyclops. Why? He only has vision in one eye. So and his vision is so startling, so arresting. The way he uses light, and especially the tonalities of his black and white prints, you could fall into those prints. I mean, these are people who just, you have to respond to those influences. They're amazing. The amount of the swirl of emotion that's generated when I look at their photographs.
All right. What was the second part of the question, RC? Because that was a great answer, Joe.
The second part of the question dealt with, is there a picture that you've shot recently that you particularly enjoy? So is there a favorite photograph that you've done recently that you enjoy?
Sure. Yeah. Putting my finger on that, I shoot a lot, during the course of a year. I always try to evaluate the year at the end of the year and say, well, what was good, what was bad. And most of it's generally not good. You have tough years as a photographer, and I'm not being just self-deprecating to be that. You have a lot of ups and downs during your average photographic year. A lot of your work passes a certain level of muster and doesn't go beyond that. It satisfies a client, and that's a good thing. It gets you paid. That's a good thing. But does it stick with you? A couple of things I did for Nikon this year, kind of ads that were co-sponsored by Nikon and PPE. I was able to take my imagination out for a fairly healthy romp, and I did 2 Halloween illustrations, and those were a lot of fun. That's a different sort of shooting again. It's a complicated process, but I really drive myself towards a point where no matter how complicated the picture, it comes out of the camera. I did a shot for you yesterday. That I've always wanted to do.
Joe sent it to me, and I was like, whoa.
It wasn't my favorite shot while I was doing it because I was deathly afraid, and I was submerged in 40 feet of cold water, and everything was shrinking, including my confidence.
Hold on, Joe.
Can I say that on the grid? Yeah,
You can say anything on the grid because we. All right, here we go. Oh, I got to go to I have to go to the video control room too. Hold on.
All right, video control room. So I have an imagination, right? And I have a sense of humor. I find a lot of things funny. And I had once sold a story to Sports Illustrated about taking professional golfers and assigning them roles, because there are golfers who are like the machine. There's a golfer who is the battler. There's a golfer who's the risk taker. And I wanted to create scenarios, pictorial scenarios, surrounding their various kinds of proclivities out there on the tour. And one of my things was a risk taker who's always going for it, and his ball is always ending up in the water. So I wanted to do a shot about the ultimate water hazard, and Kelby One was gracious enough to say, that sounds like a good video. Why don't we jump in on that? I have a relationship a little bit with Weeki Wachee Mermaid Springs. I had shot there years ago, and it's kind of this wonderful slice of Americana, and that's where the mermaids live. You guys didn't know that, but
that's where they live. I knew they were somewhere.
They're real mermaids, and they live there, And so I went there, and we suggested this thing where we took a golfer in full golf attire and sank him in the mermaid springs and surrounded him with a couple of mermaids who are trying to direct him, like, this is how you have to hit the ball.
And can we show them? There it is. Let me see if I can make it bigger for those folks at home. There we go. Now, the golfer that you sank there, he actually died, right? During the shoot yesterday, I heard that it was a tragic shoot.
Yeah, well, that's a very common hazard when you play golf. Like Robin Williams once said, that's the way they call it a stroke. So you have a stroke, because you're just trying to whack the ball, and it's just ridiculous, and you just want to die. Or something like that.
Yeah, that was well put. So one of the things that we talked to Joe about this last year is, Joe does a lot of classes. You've been here doing classes for us this week.
I have.
And you've been here since last week. You've been here a while, Joe. It's time for you to go.
Time for me to leave.
But Joe's been doing classes, and Joe's classes are beloved. But, we talked about this last year. It's like, you know what? Every once in a while, we need to do something that maybe isn't really teaching. Mm-hmm. But it's really like, just let us sit back, and we just did this with Moose Peterson as well with his Warbirds thing, where it's more about you're creating something amazing, and we just want to be there to see it. So I can't wait to see this myself, because this will just be a wild. And plus, you're so dang funny on the set, just being Joe. It's just right. Kathy's over there going, yeah, he is.
Well, I want to thank you for the confidence you placed in it, because this was a very iffy picture. This could have easily not worked. There were a number of adverse things that happened on location. There was no sun. For instance, I was hoping, praying for sun. It didn't show up. There was fog up on the top of the water.
There was a lot of fog yesterday.
Yeah,
it was like we're driving 10 miles an hour through it.
I'm like, wow, this is Florida, man. Where's the sunshine? And so thankfully I did have flashes in place. They weren't working properly at first. That's always kind of, I couldn't get them to link up with my
So
sink.
this is lit with flash?
Yeah, it's almost all lit with flash. There's about 14,000 watt seconds in the theater, and it's pumping out a lot of light into the reef. And then I'm triggering that with optical slave eyes. I have an underwater housing with a flash attached. We took a remote flash and we put it down on one of the attractions there underwater as a relay kind of switch to trigger those flashes. And Callie, who is certified, my assistant, is floating around with a
he's
third.
certified.
Yeah, he's certifiable.
He's certified.
Well, I've driven him over the edge. I accept responsibility. Brad got out
Just in time.
Yeah,
Just in time. All right. Well, great. We got some more questions for Joe?
We got tons of questions. All right. So, Leno Guy asked, if you could make a portrait of anyone who you haven't shot yet, who would it be?
Wow, good question. Good question. I have a series of faces that I would love to do a series of character-driven faces, and they would be sort of off the beaten track. I mean, everybody in Hollywood, of course, gravitates towards the big stars and all of that, but I just find fascination in some of the weather-beaten faces that have been around the block for a long time. Delroy Lindo, Ed Harris, Joan Allen, these people who are kind of in that area of film that kind of support the overall enterprise, but they might not be the marquee name,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Ed Harris has been in a million movies. Mm-hmm. He's a terrific actor.
Terrific, yeah.
And you never go, I'm going to see this Ed Harris movie.
Yeah, and he's got a face that looks, at this point now, like it's been chiseled out of granite, and those kinds of faces really, really are, amazing to me. That would be a fun project.
You know who I'd like to shoot? Two people. Who? And this no one asked this, but I'm just going to tell you. I'd like to shoot Richard Branson. I think he's an interesting guy, and I think he has an interesting look.
Right.
And I'd like to shoot James Taylor.
JT. We were talking about JT last night. I grew up with JT. If I have a definitive album, to use an old term from my college years, it's Fire and Rain.
Yeah. I've seen it.
And
both. I've seen Sunny Days. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
No, that's good.
I just saw him in concert, and I've seen him before in concert. My wife one day, she's driving my car, and she says, "Oh, Brad shot James Taylor while I was there. He was out there doing the concert photography." My wife's driving my car, and she goes, "Honey, you got a lot of James Taylor in your car." I go, I guess I do, and I realize I have more James Taylor than anything. Mm-hmm. But I consider myself like a classic rock guy.
Sure.
But I have listened to. Anyway, he's an interesting guy, and he's a very interesting person. When you're watch him in concert, Brad will tell you, you want him to almost finish the song so you can hear what he's going to say next. Mm-hmm. He's very funny, very engaging. He's got really just amazing stories. He reminds me of an acoustic guitar version of you. Because his work stands on its own, but the stories just take it to that next level.
Talk about
RC.
A question came in here real quick that I thought was just kind of neat. I don't know if you guys are ready for another question or not.
Sure.
Would you like another one? Joe has photographed many people, so many things, which I'm sure he's taught him many things. Was there ever a time when he regretted how he approached or interacted with a subject by Sarager? Was there ever a time or a person that you worked with that offered a bit of regret? Perhaps you walked away from it and you were like, yeah, man.
Yeah. Wow. There's... you interact with all sorts of people in various emotional ways when you are a photographer. Sometimes you feel like in the interest of your magazine, you might have overstepped, perhaps, in terms of, I really enjoy people. I try to be very pleasant to people, but my editor at Life once assigned me to a story, and he said, for this particular story, Joe, we're going to need your curious blend of charm and aggression. And I kind of did a head tilt, and I was like, oh, wow. You know, in Vietnam, I was in Vietnam for a book called Passage to Vietnam, and I was in traffic with my fixer on the back of his motorbike. I spent the whole week on a scooter, and I had film and one flash in my pocket and 2 lenses, a 20 and a 180, and that was it. And so all these women are passing by in traditional Vietnamese dress, and I'm photographing them off the back of the motorbike. And he goes, they're going to a wedding. There's the wedding car up there. He goes, do you want to go to the wedding? And I said, we can't go to somebody's wedding. He said, don't worry. And he moves the motorbike over, and they and they speak in Vietnamese back and forth. He goes, we're invited. And I spent the rest of the day, I mean, this is a country with which our country has considerable history, you know, and I spent the rest of the day at this amazing wedding, and I had people coming up to me and telling me through the translator, if this had been many years ago, I would have wanted to have killed you, but now I embrace you as a friend. And I was the guest of honor at the wedding, and I was actually the last person in the apartment with the bride and groom. And I felt like I overstayed because she was about to spend the first night away from her family with this man she just married, and she was weeping. And I made the picture, and I walked out, and I felt bad. I felt like I'd overstayed. And
well, Joe, if that's the worst thing you ever did, you've had a good life.
Well, no, you know, you get into certain things where you wish things had gone better, you know. And
What shoot would you do again? If you could do any shoot that you've done in your life, you could say, I get to pick one and go in that. Yes, put the water in the bucket and throw it on yourself. So my assistant Lynn just showed up with a bucket and water. So
there's so many things. I've blown jobs sky high. Cher.
Cher?
I would love to have that night. I'd love to have that night with Cher back.
Well, I think there's more questions coming up on this one. Go ahead.
I was assigned by People Magazine. The cover had already been done. I was assigned by People Magazine to spend one night with Cher, and I had to fill like 8 pages of the magazine. And she just steamrollered me. I was still a young photographer, and I didn't have the strength of ego to fight back. And she walked downstairs. She had the suite at the Morgan Penthouse and a hotel, and she looked at me and she goes, "You've got 30 seconds." And because we had to jump into the limo, you know, and so I know I just had a crucial misfire in my head. I knew the title of the story. The title of the story was Cher's Newfound Hollywood Muscle, and it was coming I was ramping up the story for her Star Turn and Moonstruck, which she won the Academy Award for.
Yeah.
And there was a pair of dumbbells off in the corner. And I took her outside, and I didn't connect it. And I should have taken her jacket off and had her stand outside and start to lift the dumbbells and do something that related to strength. And I didn't do it. And I made an average picture. And it sticks with me to this day. The successes I let go of very easily. I don't even think about them anymore. The ones where I fail stick with me for a long. I'm a real water under the bridge kind of guy when it comes to that, you know, Scott. And then I spent the rest of the night, you know, rattling around a limousine with her. And then we went to Letterman, and she was in this sheer gown. She said, "Don't shoot me in this." And I abided by that wish. That's when I should have blown the doors off and said, "Screw you, lady. You're a celebrity. I'm going to shoot any damn picture I want," you know. And I've toughened up since then.
Well, you know, it's tough when you're young. You know, Joe, they say we're young and we don't know. We won't find out until we grow. I don't know if all that's true.
Damn, you're good.
Sorry, Joe, I couldn't help myself. Hey, so Cher, you'd go back and reshoot Cher.
Yeah, I would go back to that moment in time and I'd do a better job. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, you know, you've gotten pretty decent. I think you could probably get a decent shot of Cher.
You grow over time. You really do, you know. So many things. Oh my God, you know, that could be a whole grid and several more, you know, of things ones that got away, things that you'd like back.
Yeah, but I love that you know. I mean, you knew pretty much without searching too deep. I'd love to redo that Cher shot.
Oh, God, you know before you leave location. You know that, right? When you leave location, you got that sick feeling in your stomach. You know you didn't get it.
Yeah.
Here's an opposite that I think is interesting. I mean, you've got a lot of years doing it, right? And you know that you walked away with it. Is there any, because I think that looking at the chat and looking at everybody, and they're sitting there, they're going, you know, Joe's amazing. He's done all of this work. There's a lot of reverence for what you do. Is there ever a time where you're like, you have that kind of reverence for yourself, where all of a sudden you do a shoot and you just want to be like, nailed it. Like, peace out, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm Joe McNally.
Peace
Is there
out.
ever
Oh,
a
yeah.
time when you
Oh, yeah.
walk out, like, can you think of a picture where you're like, smoked it, peace out, see you later?
Yeah. There's been blessedly those moments where I leave if I find, and I've said this numerous times, I find if I come away at the end of a day with a picture that comes close to what my imagination was at the beginning of the day, it's a successful day in the field. And I just kind of like, I want to, sometimes, if it's a big job, I just want to scream. And I photographed Michelle Yeoh. I sold this idea to the National Geographic that I needed an Asian actor or actress who was proficient at stunts because they were having, those kinds of actors and actresses are having enormous impact on Hollywood movies. And so they were big stars that were just migrating in from the Asian theater scene, and Michelle was one of them. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, for instance, she was a Bond girl. And so I came up with this idea where I dangled her on wires from a helicopter and I shot her in front of the Hollywood sign. And I sold that story to my editor. He started chuckling. He said, "I'm surprised you're not calling me from the helicopter, Joe," because I was always a little bit of a loose cannon. And I got permission to do it. And the shot cost Geographic a whole bunch of money. And it was, one of these things. Is it going to work? Would she say yes? And she did say yes. And we went up and we commissioned the helicopter, stunt pilot, rigger, all that sort of stuff, and went flying. And it ran as the lead to the story. And Geographic's editor-in-chief, who's a very jaded individual, right? Because visually they got bombarded with lots of great pictures all the time. So to make a dent in that consciousness, and the whole room just went back like, we haven't seen anything like this before. And I was like, yes, you son of a bitch. You miserable bastard. You sit here and you, no, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You got him carried away.
I guess that's so. We don't have a pot, but at least we're sure of all the things we got. Hey, there it is. There's the shot right there.
It is.
Yeah, I think if I'd have taken that shot, Joe, I'd have been like, yeah, I got this one.
Yep.
Yeah, I got that. Hollywood sign.
Yep.
She's hanging from a rope. How do you get people to do this stuff, Joe? Because, there's not a lot of people who said, do you care if we dangle you from a rope from a helicopter? Where are you out on the skid?
No, we're 50 feet below the helicopter on cables, and we're both flying face to face.
You're flying too?
Yeah, I'm flying face to face.
Oh, my God.
And,
what's wrong with you?
But Michelle was up for it because she's a fearless lady. She threw herself off a 6-story bridge as a stunt person to get herself a job in a Jackie Chan movie.
Wow.
So she's a fearless lady. Also here, little aside.
Yeah?
She kicked me.
Did she?
I asked her to kick me. I had worked with her before, and she's a lovely lady. And so I was out in the desert with her. We were doing a series of portraits, and I said, "Would you kick me like you do in the movies?" Because she's a martial artist. She's a trained, martial artist. And she goes, "Joe, you don't want me to kick you." And I said, "No, I really want you to kick me." And she goes, "You really, you don't want that to happen." I said, "No, just like in the movies, I'm a bad guy. I want you to kick me." And she goes, so I kind of charged at her, and she turned around, she spun, and she did it. And she planted it right in my solar plexus.
No.
And she knocked me backwards about 3 feet, and I couldn't breathe for a minute or so. I lost my breath.
Knocked the wind out of your mouth.
And she goes, you asked for it, dude. And I'm like, you're right, I did. That was really stupid, but it was fun.
It makes me want to take a break. I don't know why. That story freaks me out. All right. Hey, before we take a break, we're right in the middle of this thing called 8 Crazy Deals that we're doing at Kelby One. So if you ever wanted to get a subscription or, you wanted to, there's all kinds of stuff. There's only like 2 more deals left. We're 8 days into it. Go to kelby1.com. They have a bunch of offers there. And you can watch all kinds of classes from Joe McNally because we got a whole bunch more. And apparently we just taped a whole bunch more. Including the mermaid shoot. So that's all coming up. Go to kelby1.com and check that out. When we come back, we're going to have more questions, and we have a whole bunch of questions. So stick around. I got a feeling this show might run a few minutes over.
Maybe.
And so if you'll let the network know that we might run a little bit over. What just happened? Can we go to RC's thing real quick? Just switch over to RC.
Oh, hey. Oh. No, it's just some movement. People are checking on me. I was doing
All
a
right.
little bit
So,
of...
RC, I was just wondering, will you be taking your temperature during the show?
I thought about it. I actually... You can't see that I am.
Break time. Take a break. Go to black. Fade. Go up. Up and away.
We all know the difference a great teacher makes. They inspire you, challenge you, and push you to do the things you never thought you could. For creatives, that means you've got to know your tools inside and out, whether it's Photoshop or photography, lighting or Lightroom, InDesign or After Effects. And while there are free videos out there, you have to watch 30 bad ones just to find a decent one. And a lot of times, the techniques are either outdated, complicated, or just plain wrong. What we need is a better way to learn. One that connects amazing teachers with creative people all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A thriving educational community with nothing but the most talented, engaging, and respected teachers in the industry. Then we simplify the whole learning process with short, clear, concise classes. That's exactly what we've created for you right here at Kelby One.
Hey, yo, we're back. Hey, I just mentioned that we got those deals right. Every Thursday we release new classes. We call it New Class Thursday. Anyway, we don't have a great name for it, but we do every week. We release 1 or 2, sometimes 3, a whole bunch of classes. Our latest one is by Tony Corbell, and it's on shooting group shots, right? It's the group shot. So he actually did a big giant group shot of most of our staff here, and but anyway, he's done all kinds of stuff. So it's photographing groups, small to large, with Tony Corbell. That's last week's new one, I think, and then we've got another new one coming, but that's our newest one. That's from last week. And tomorrow we'll have some new classes, and really, who knows what they'll be, but they'll be new and they'll be tomorrow.
It'll be the interview with Jay Maisel.
Oh, tomorrow's the interview with Jay. Ooh, so Mia McCormick sat down with Jay on location and did a one-on-one interview. And
At Jay's home.
At Jay's home.
Actually, it was in one of the galleries in the building.
Yeah, in one of the galleries in his home. He's how many people have galleries in their home? Jay does.
Yeah, Jay.
But Jay is one of the most fascinating guys. If you get a chance, it'll be coming up live tomorrow. And let's see what else. How about some questions for a very beautiful man? RC? No, for Joe. What do you got there, Brad?
I like this one. Joe, I befriended, this is from Jim J. Joe, I befriended a bunch of ballet dancers and immediately started learning more about posing and staging from them than I would have learned anywhere else. What is the most interesting thing that you have learned from your subjects?
Well, the beautiful thing about being a photographer is you're oftentimes assigned to go photograph people because they are excellent at what they do. Whether they're a dancer or a musician or a scholar or an architect, they are oftentimes doing very noteworthy things. So that's why you go and intersect with them photographically. I guess I've learned a lot about patience, and over the course of the years, respect for making sure that I tell their story. You know, I have a lot of respect for the storyline that I'm sent to go and shoot. And I've seen a lot of portraiture over time where the photographer seemingly has made a predetermined conclusion about what the photograph's going to be, and then the person becomes a prop, you know, and just kind of settles into this scheme or staging that really is not so much about them. So I've tried over the years to learn from my subjects to really, really listen to them and make sure that the picture is about them.
Very good. Very cool. What else you got there?
Matt wants to know who or what was the most intimidating subject you've shot?
Oh, wow. There's been a bunch of those from Gorbachev to.
I was just going to say, how about Gorbachev?
Well, Gorby was okay. His people were intimidating. you know. Yeah, I couldn't speak to Gorby because he doesn't speak any English. I don't speak any Russian, or very little. And
he speaks English, Joe.
yeah, his people were fairly intimidating.
McNally, it's time for you to take pictures now.
Yes.
You press the button or die.
Time for you to go. And that's, you know, I had 2 sessions with him. One was outdoors in the snow, and I got the picture I wanted.
I love that picture.
And
I believe that picture is in your Moment It Clicks.
it is, I believe. Yep. And shot with small flash through a shoot-through umbrella, and out in the woods in Moscow. But probably one of the most scared moments, you referenced dance in a previous question. I was photographing Julie Kent and Marcelo Gomez, 2 premier, legendary dancers. And there was a Russian choreographer, and he was right at my camera. And Julie and Marcelo were going up into a move, and Julie's not easy, right? She's an ultimate ballerina, so she expects you to match that intensity at the camera. And the choreographer was yelling at them. In the rudest fashion you could possibly imagine. Getting them to lift, arm, fingers. And I thought to myself, I said, if they get to this and I screw it up, I am dead. If the strobes don't fire, if I miss focus, I was probably more nervous at that moment than I have been almost ever, because you have this fear of failure, right? Sure. And at that moment, if you have that crescendo of physicality that comes to that very precise point of beauty that's so strong, it's painful, and you miss it as a photographer, man, that's a long night. That's like,
wow.
Let's get a bottle of wild turkey, Brad, and
a brown bag,
and let's go sit on a stoop, because that's all we're worth.
Wow. What else we have, Brad?
All right. What is a personal photo project you've yet to do that's on your bucket list? That one's from Rob Feiner.
Oh yeah. I got a bunch of those. I'll die with a bucket list of pictures, to be sure. So that's probably a good place to be. And one of the things I've always been fascinated with the performing arts. I have a tremendous amount of respect for people who actually go on stage and perform for us. Musicians, actors, actresses, dancers, you name it. And
talk show hosts.
No, stop short of that. No, actually, though, I have a tremendous amount of respect for, I've been watching Jimmy Fallon lately. The guy is multi-talented.
Very talented.
He's a very talented
sing,
dude.
He can dance. He's a writer.
He plays guitar.
He's a musician.
Imagination,
I love Jimmy Fallon. He's tremendously talented.
But the thing about that I've always had in the back of my head is I really enjoy these behind-the-scenes kinds of in the theater arts world. And I've always wanted to do a book about the roots and origins of the circus. And I'd like to start with the old family circuses of China and India and Eastern Europe, and then do a timeline and photograph through the big tops of the United States, like the Big Apple Circus, the Ringling Brothers, etc., and then end at the sort of logical, imaginative kind of forefront of the circus as we know it now, Cirque du Soleil, and a real expression of imagination. So there'd be this kind of continuum, if you would, a storyline of that type of book. I'd love to do a project like that. I'm chipping away at it. I'm dogged about that sort of stuff. I've worked with some Cirque du Soleil people in Vegas now for the last 2 or 3 years, and just informally piecing together images, and who knows.
You did some work here in Florida, a couple years ago with the D4?
With Nikon's D4, yeah, just south of here, because circus people live here around Tampa.
Sarasota.
And so we had it was a big project, so we had budget. And so I had a circus tent commissioned and built. It was an old style circus tent. And then we populated it with various circus people and acts and all of that.
Cool.
Hey, there's 2 that I'd like to ask here, and I want to get some from RC2. Matt Bunyan asked, what are some of the traits that Brad, Drew, and Callie share that help them succeed as your assistant?
Oh, interesting. Good question. The number one thing I look for in an assistant is attitude. It's like attitude, 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 technical ability. Attitude. You know, can we get along? That kind of thing. I mean, you know, all the other stuff can be taught. Like when you came to my studio, you weren't super hip.
I didn't know Jack.
You know, to lights.
He's so nice. You weren't super hip to lights.
You know, so you accumulated that knowledge. And the thing on all the sets that you run as a photographer, and these guys work hard, and I work hard with them. I think that's why they work hard for me, because they know I'm there in the trenches with them.
Absolutely.
I'm there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm lifting the gear out of the car. I can't lift the amount of gear I used to. You know, I'll be honest about that. But I'm in there pitching with them, and I think they respect that and respond by putting out their best efforts, and that's all I ever ask. And on a set, nothing is too big, nothing is too small. You know, Brad, run that octa up 5 feet higher, spin it this way, or Brad, can you grab me a coffee really quick? I mean, nothing too big, nothing too small.
He got you coffee?
He did.
He will. You never got me coffee.
Because you don't like Starbucks.
What the? But you know what can I tell you? When Brad started working with me, he did bring a lot of knowledge in those couple of years. And to this day, Brad will remind me of things, tell me things that he learned from you that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. So I've sucked a little bit of this through Brad's head over here, and now I give it to RC.
Well, here's the thing. The mentoring thing works. You just had Drew Gurian on last week.
Yeah, right.
And he's doing very well. Look at what Brad's doing. Callie is doing very well. The mentoring process works. We call them our lost boys. You know, Lynn is kind of their mother confessor, you know, in many ways. And they kind of go forward, you know, and they accumulate knowledge and wisdom, and they grow in the business, and then hopefully they step out, you know, and do larger things.
Alrighty, and there was another one I thought that was pretty good here. Where was it? Oh, here's one from Spencer. Spencer asked, have you ever shot someone who you did not resonate with, perhaps even disliked them, but yet you still made the shot, still made a good shot?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't resonate well with Donald Trump.
That's exactly who I was just thinking.
You know.
You and Donald not loving each other?
Not loving. I've actually walked away from shoots. I had a television executive who the whole idea was to photograph these high-powered executives at their favorite place of lunch. And there's a lunch place in New York, very fancy one, called Café des Artistes. And the motif, a visual motif of Des Artistes is there's these naked nymphs gambling in the forest, you know, and they're voluptuous and they're naked. And so I set up
as nymphs tend to be.
As nymphs tend to be,
Thank you
yeah.
for clarifying.
And so I had this whole thing set up, and she walked in and she said, I'm not going to be photographed in front of those naked creatures. And I was like, lady, this is where like the years had gone by, and she said no, and I said yes, and she said you can photograph me in the bar. I said the bar is a brown wall. I mean, you could be anywhere. This is the motif of Café des Artistes. This is what you created. This is what you wanted. And she said, no, I'm not posing there. And she said, you'll shoot it in the bar. And I said, no, I'm not shooting in the bar. So we agreed to disagree, and I walked out. I looked at the assistant. I said, break down the lights. We're not doing this today.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because at a certain point, as a photographer, if you've been hired and there's this meeting of the minds. I mean, I do have confidence on that level, you know, at this point. Like, yeah, you're very good at what you do. Excuse me, I'm good at what I do too. So we're going to make this happen together.
Or it ain't happening at all.
Happen.
RC just sent me a terribly naughty, don't show my screen whatever you do.
Well,
all right.
Do we have a temperature readout on RC?
Yeah, RC, what's the latest reading?
Let's see. Oh, God. Oh, no.
I've been typing this entire time, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, ow.
Hey, RC.
Inopportune camera.
I'm not your mom. You don't have to fool us with this stuff.
Hey,
What's that old
stuff
song?
you pull on your
You've been
kid.
riffing on songs. There's that old song. Hey, 98.6.
It's good to have you back again. Hey, 98. That's before your time,
It's
RC.
old guy.
It most certainly
stuff, man.
is.
It's old
Do you
guy
not remember
stuff.
that song? Hey, 98.6.
Anything before Exodus, I'm like just completely blank. Sorry.
Do you have any questions for Mr. McNally? RC?
S. Dallas has a question. What is the ultimate goal that you are still working towards? And you know, the funny part about it is that we talked about this not too long ago. Are you out there kind of like looking for the picture?
Oh, he's
Like,
out
Are
there.
you is just doing the camera, working, like doing that? Like, what are you looking for? What's the goal?
Good question. First of all, I enjoy work. I enjoy the click of the shutter. I enjoy the engagement of location. I enjoy the adventure aspect of doing certain things photographically. I enjoy the educational aspect of bouncing into the people that you bounce into. I enjoy the company of photographers, which means that I put energy into scenarios where I teach, and which I'm also very happy about. So if I'm working towards something, I think is to stay working and to stay vibrant and to stay healthy enough to still be in the field. I still have some very physical things that I'm still trying to do. And is there one photograph? No, there will never be one photograph, because as soon as you get that photograph, then it's over and you're looking for the next photograph, right? It's never about what you did, it's about what you're about to do. And I'm pretty not so precious about the work that has gone on before me, and that I've already shot. Well, that's downstream. Let's figure out something else. Where does my imagination lead next? Where can we go? How do we stay alive as a studio? All those things, I swirl through my head every day. I wake up in the morning as a freelance photographer and I think, okay, here's another mountain to climb. It's called today. Let's see if we can make a successful picture. Let's see if we can keep the studio alive. Let's keep going forward.
Hey, there was a great quote in there. I would say it was quote of the week, and maybe Kathy, you could tweet it out for us. You said it's not about the picture. What did you say it was? It was a really great quote. You said something along the lines of, "It's not about the picture you just made. It's about the picture you're about to make."
You're about to make, yeah.
But I'm paraphrasing it. I don't know exactly what it was said. But Kathy has a memory that is just unbelievable. She'll be able to recite it word for word.
Kathy Porupski is an awesome human being.
She really is.
I'm so glad to call her a friend.
Yeah, we love her. We love Kathy.
And also, LaTanya Henry is on location here at the Grid with us, and she's an awesome photographer and good friend who came to St. Lucia and had the faith to come to the Caribbean with us and enjoy the tropical breezes and shoot some wonderful pictures. So thank you for coming here today.
Were there actually tropical breezes?
There were.
Okay, because sometimes in St. Lucia there can be tropical heat.
Yes, there is tropical heat as well, but the Caribbean is right there at your feet.
It is it's at your feet, Joel.
It's right there, Scott. You can jump in anytime you feel like
I
it.
noticed that Kathy Porupski got up from her seat on the set, and now she's asking people around the set, what did he say? It's not about the what? I think it's the actual quote is, it's, just put this in parentheses, it's turn down the what?
I do have another
what?
quote.
No,
I do have another question
that's
that
not
just
it.
came in that I think will be pretty good. Glenn Robinson had asked, Joe, do you ever just walk out of your studio and just shoot? Like, do you get time now with your schedule to just kind of grab the camera and just go, we'll go take a look?
I don't see Joe walking. I've been to Joe's house. I don't see Joe grabbing the camera going. Now, if Joe lived in downtown Manhattan, like Jay does.
Yeah. It's funny, tragic, but funny at the same time. You have to, you stay on assignment. You're looking forward to your next assignment, and then in between, you're working like crazy. You're doing all the non-romance stuff of being a photographer: filing, bookkeeping, billing, tweeting, Facebook, and whatever it is, running the studio. And so somehow it's a little, and I've been thinking about this lately. The staying in business as a photographer sometimes precludes you from shooting. And you have to be able to carve out time, which is why I carved myself out a very expensive time slot by taking Jay Mazel's workshop. Right, about 3 or 4 years ago. And, and Jay is Jay, it's $5,000 to go to that workshop. And he calls me up and he goes, you're my friend, but you're not getting any discounts. And I said, I hear you. And lots of folks go to that workshop, they just write him a check. I was writing him multiple checks, like I'd send him $1,000, then I'd send him $1,000. He calls me up in the middle of this process, he goes, I knew you were gonna be a pain in the ass, And finally I got to $5,000 and I was able to come to the workshop. And it was awesome, because you're right there in the Bowery and you hit the streets and there's inspiration everywhere. I walked in, I had this, bag of gear, I put it, and Jay comes up and he goes, what's all this shit? And I said, well, Jay, it's my gear. He goes, for you, this week, no lights, one lens.
Ooh, no flash.
And I worked on the streets with one camera, one lens all week long.
So here's what Joe's not telling you. The reason why he doesn't walk out the door. See, we've been to Joe's place.
Joe's place was here this week.
All right, first, he lives in Connecticut, so let's get any of this illusions of a little tiny apartment in the city, and he's like cooking on a sterno. He lives in a beautiful home in Connecticut, and there's this long, winding drive that goes back there. By the time he made it to the street, he'd be exhausted. And then the gates have to open, and there's a big J on the front gate. There's a big J on the front gate, JM, and it's a script and it's in gold. And when it opens up, there's always people, like a group of people outside taking pictures and stuff. And when he comes out in his limo, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that. When Joe drives out in a fleet of, what do they use? He uses 6
Armored
Range
Humvees.
Rovers. No, he takes black Range Rovers, a whole fleet of them. There's all these people trying to take pictures and putting things. Sometimes he rolls down the window, signs one, and they drive away. That's why he doesn't shoot. He doesn't walk out his door.
The sterno description is far closer to the truth, actually. We live in the woods in Connecticut. We're at the end of a cul-de-sac, and there's, I'm not much of a landscape guy, so there's not a lot to shoot in the sleepy little town of Ridgefield, Connecticut. But I do get into the city, and I've been traveling with a camera much more so now, kind of following in Jay's footsteps, because now when I go out and I go into the city, camera's with me all the time.
Yeah. Now, if you get to Ridgefield, there's a small Joe McNally gift shop on Main Street, right?
True, yeah.
And you can get Joe McNally mugs, cups, T-shirts, stuffed animals.
Actually, I'm just a franchisee. I sell Peter Lick prints.
Dude, that's a good business to get in right there. That's a good business to get in. Hey, we're gonna take a short break. We're gonna run over a little today, but I just want to mention when we come back from this break, Brad is going to slink away, still leaving his questions on screen, and because we're going to bring on a someone new, so we added somebody new to our crew this week, Julio, and so we're going to have Julio on the show here just to kind of introduce him to you, but we're still going to. Now, he's cool with being with Joe. They've worked together on some Kelby 1 classes and stuff. And so, I think Julio was his driver number of the third Range Rover in the 6 that Joe rolls with. I think he was driver number 2 for a while, so he's kind of familiar with it. So anyway, we're going to take a short break. I wasn't supposed to say these things, right?
No, it's okay. I probably wasn't supposed to say the Peter Lick thing either.
No, it's okay. Peter Lick couldn't care. He's like,
no,
I sold a print for $6.3 million this year. Joe can say anything.
Yeah, I can say anything.
He doesn't
I want,
care what we say.
All
right, I like Peter Lick. Every time I go to Vegas, I go into his gallery, and I think his stuff is very nice.
I think his stuff is wonderful. I think it's good to see people making a living on HDR. I love it.
It's not HDR. He doesn't use Photoshop.
His assistant does. Oh, no, sorry.
No, there's big signs all over the place that says no Photoshop. Can we get some yellow gels on these lights? You know what, this thing needs a quarter cut of CTO in honor of Joe McNally. We're gonna take a short break. Brad, I just want to tell you, you're not as good as you were usually. I like you back over on your place over there, because over there you're dancing and doing weird stuff. Here you're just kind of, working. Mm-hmm. I like it better when you don't work.
But he's a font of knowledge.
He is a font of knowledge. What font is he?
Helvetica Bold.
You are Helvetica Bold.
I'll take it.
Or we just call him HB. Anyway, we're going to take a short break. Thanks for being with us, Brad.
Very welcome.
And RC, stay in your infected zone. And when we come back, Julio's going to join us. We've got more questions for Joe McNally. We have giveaways coming up. We're going to have Joe's going to do some nude selfies. Stick around. We'll be right back live on the grid. Don't go away.
MPix Pro, the full-service online photography lab, helping you grow your business with pro-quality photo products and stellar services. Get started at mpixpro.com.
Hey everybody, Scott here, Joe McNally here, of course, and we're joined by Julio Aguilar, or like to call him Julio Aguilera, which is It's Christina Aguilera's distant photo assistant. Anyway, Julio, what's up?
What's going on?
All right, so Julio, this is your first week. This is day 3.
It is.
And you work with me. You work with Joe.
I have.
Joe.
Yep, absolutely.
And so your job here is we just launched, we've soft launched this. We haven't done the big launch. We've done the baby launch of a Kelby One blog. So we wanted to have one place where we could have all kinds of content and news and reviews and all that kind of stuff, you know. So he's going to be the blog shark. Tell us about your job.
I'm going to be just bringing you guys all the information out that's relevant within our industry. So anything that's new, anything that's fascinating, you guys are going to get it first.
Yeah, we put up all kinds of content there too. And we've been pushing up content for a while, but we've been just kind of doing it on we hardly ever mention the Kelby One blog, but we're going to, we're trying to make it into something really special. So that's why we said, let's go get Julio, because Julio, here's why we hired him. I'm going to tell you straight up. He has amazing hair. Now, you can't tell today, the day I'm going to have him on the show, I didn't tell him he's going to be on the grid today. He's got a fro that makes Jared Polins look like there we go. So we did a draft day signing here. This is the day he got his hat and his shirt like on NFL draft day. And that hat is really clamping it down. Because I'm telling you what, when he lets that thing go, it has its own ecosystem. It can support life. It does all kinds of crazy stuff. It's like the hair version of Brad's beard. It's its own thing. And so and now Eric Vallen's the guy that came up with your what you call it?
Nickname?
Your nickname, which is Hulifro, and it's also your Twitter handle.
@Hulifro.
@Hulifro. So go say hi if you want to, and he's on kelby1.com/blog. That's kind of we need a name for that blog. Will you come up with a name? We need a cool name.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
So we need a cool name. And Kevin Stolmeyer, our buddy Kevin, he already came up with your logo, Power to the Fro, and where is we came up with Power to the Fro, but he's got do we have it?
I don't know. Do you guys have it?
You'll see it. Just go to my Twitter page. I'll put it up. I'll
It's
put
also
it
on
up
the
after
blog.
the show. And we're going to get back to some things, but I just want you guys to get a chance to go, oh, that's Julio. So when we say stuff like, hey, Julio put this on the blog, or Julio talked about this, you'll go, it's that guy that was on the show with McNally that took the place of where Brad was because RC was sick. RC.
We do have a couple more questions here. So Tom had just asked, Joe, when you get tired of photography and just need to reboot, what do? You can't use the camera. You're done. You got to disconnect. Where are you going? What are you doing?
I'm about to disconnect. I'm about to do this very thing. And that to me is going home and being with Annie. And heaven is like a night at home watching TV, sitting on the couch, and just being there, being with Annie. You know what? That's it.
I tell you what, it is so refreshing to see a man who's not afraid to say how much he loves his cat. Because a lot of guys, they just feel weird about talking about a pet cat. And I know Annie has been now she's a tabby.
It's very important to me, Scott. Please be reverent.
Of course, it's Joe's wonderful wife, Annie. The reason I'm glad you brought up Annie is Annie's going to be teaching at Photoshop World in this Vegas.
Yeah, you guys are talking about that.
We got to get.
Awesome.
Oh, we love Annie. She is you married number one, just an absolutely wonderful woman. She is just awesome. You're both lucky as anything to have each other, but she's a really talented person. I mean, she is just a very good photographer, a good teacher. She knows the stuff we don't know, Joe.
Well, also she works harder than you and I put together.
Yeah, she does.
She's got a formidable work ethic. If she doesn't have the answer to something, she will find it. And she is also just so down to earth and accessible. She's just real people, and people. I think that's why she's such a good teacher, is that people are not afraid to approach her.
Yeah.
She doesn't intimidate anybody. She's like, come on, bring it in, and we'll talk about it, and we'll get it done.
The first time I ever met Annie was in Vermont with you at a workshop, and she was the person that showed me how to use off-camera flash. She literally, you were teaching, and she's out in the lobby with me, and she's going, okay, you turn the flash on here, you go to the command menu, you turn off the command, and I'm like, I mean, she really knows her tech stuff inside and out. Well, she worked for Nikon for years. She was with NPS, Nikon Professional Services, as a tech rep. But she's a great photographer in her own right.
Yep, yeah, she was with Nikon for 12 years, and she still has very powerful friends and relationships there, with Nikon. So, yeah, I mean, I am, you say we're both lucky. I am by far the luckier of the two.
Well, if I had to look at the two of you, I would say yes, that's true.
It's absolutely true. I'm unabashed.
No.
Hit the nail on the head.
No, she's awesome.
So we have another question here. And this has come up. Miguelito has kind of put this up a couple of times. And he talks about your passion right now for spinning or indoor cycling. And he talked a little bit about that and fitness and you working and doing stuff. There's been some comments that you're looking good, which I thought was kind of neat, right? I wasn't looking. I wasn't paying attention. I'm just not looking.
Yeah, no,
but
of course.
But are you working out? Like, are you doing that kind of stuff? Like, do you find that you're working out because of the job? Obviously, you're probably doing it for yourself, but do you do a lot of it because of the job? Like, do you have to stay in shape to continue the job?
Yes, I mean, I think it's dubious to refer to me as being in shape right now, because I have too much weight that I'm carrying, and I have, and this is another topic of conversation with Jay Maisel, as he always tells me, Joe, arthritis is a freelancer. You wake up in the morning and you don't know which area of your body is going to feel bad. And I've got a pretty intense sort of arthritic condition in my knees. I have 2 torn meniscus, torn in both knees, and so I limp. People notice me at workshops like, are you limping? I'm like, yes, both mentally and physically. But so I do fight back against it. One of the things that I can do is I'm determined to lose a bit of weight. So I do some spinning. I keep my legs moving. One of the beauties of being a photographer, one of the side benefits of it, and it's huge, is that you have to stay active. They haven't learned how to make a picture in the field without a photographer out there yet, so you gotta physically.
The robot is coming.
Yeah, you physically have to go and engage. Somebody wants a picture of this or this person, you gotta go, and so you gotta get on a plane. You gotta haul some gear. You gotta walk around. You gotta scout. You're on your feet all day long. When I teach for you the seminars, better than anybody. I'm on stage shooting live for 5.5 hours. At the end of that, I feel like I played a football game. So it's incumbent on me to keep my legs going, as best I possibly can. And that's part of the, hopefully part of the equation. And hopefully, I come on the grid next year, I'll be a lean, mean, I don't know. I do my best.
Leather Pants McNally, I'm coining it right now.
Read that one here. This is a question that Brad had put up here earlier from Aaron Gilpin.
What is the dumbest thing Brad ever did when he was your assistant?
I know the answer to this one. It's a great story. You might as well tell it, Jeff.
Do we have like 30 or 40 minutes? The dumbest thing Brad ever did, well, I felt badly for him because he injured himself very badly on location. We started a story for Sports Illustrated, and I had told Brad, it was his first time on the road, I said, the utility knives always go with us in the field, in the camera bags. He was being faithful to that mandate, that directive, and he tried to take not 1, not 2, but 3 knives onto the airplane. And the TSA called me over and said, "Excuse me, sir, would you come with me, please? Is this your assistant? Are these your knives?" All right, so we got through that. And then along the way, he lost his passport because at the end of the job for Sports Illustrated, we were going to cover the Baja 1000 in Mexico. All right, we were still at a point where you could get into Mexico on a U.S. driver's license. I'm like, okay, that's bad news, but it'll be all right. We get to San Diego and we make the jump across the border. And long story, but I won't go into, he lost his wallet. So now he doesn't even have ID that Brad is Brad. I'm like, Brad, I don't know. The Border Patrol is not going to accept, like, if you have like Brad stenciled in your underwear or something. Like, they're not going to accept that as proof of ID, man. I don't even know if I can get you over the border. So he went back to look for his wallet, and he was looking under a truck for his wallet, and he came up too quickly, and he creased his forehead. So I'm supposed to, this is a big job for the studio. It's a 5-figure fee that I have to jump into the next day, and the studio was hanging by a thread. And I get a knock on my door at the hotel. It's like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning. He goes, Brad's in the hospital. And I'm like, he's in the hospital? Yeah. Well, I'm going to put him in the morgue, man.
Joe, he's not just in the hospital. He's in the hospital in Mexico.
And so the folks who had sponsored the race had gotten him to this private facility, and it was a good facility, nice doctor. And I walk in, and there's blood all over the room because he had slit his forehead. What was it, 30 stitches?
No, it was 3 inside and 6 outside.
Okay, but it was all across your forehead. And he's like, oh, how does it look, man? I'm like, and I go behind the surgeon, and I look over, and you know how you just can't help yourself? I see Brad's cranium.
What's it look like?
It's so deep. I see the bone. And I couldn't help myself. I'm over the surgeon. I'm like, yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just, oh, my God!
Did it have a cartoon pattern and stuff?
Blood is going everywhere. I'm like, oh! And at that point, I got hardcore. He stitched him up, and I went to the doctor. And I said, look, here's the thing.
Is he going to make it?
He's a nice man, great kid, all that sort of stuff. Just started working for me. What can I get out of him tomorrow? What use can he be tomorrow? Otherwise, he can stay in the freaking hospital with you.
Can he hold a reflector?
Can he drive? I said, can he drive? And he goes, yeah, he should be able to drive. I said, all right, Brad, you're going to drive. And so it was a highly pressurized day. We ended up in the interior of Mexico at like 11 o'clock at night on this dusty road that was only illuminated by gas, by bottles filled with gas. And we don't know where we are. And so I'm thinking, all right, we got to turn. We've lost the race. We got to go back to the coast. And I turned to Brad. I said, you were up for driving? And he looks at me like this. And his eyes are slits. His head is the size of a football. And his eyes are slits. And he goes, I forgot my antibiotics. And at that point,
my God.
And at that point, I was like, give me a machete. And I said, get in the car. Shut up. And I just started driving like a mad person back to the coast. And the next day I said, we're getting out of Mexico. And we approached, he had gotten his police report and everything. We're approaching the Border Patrol, and he's starting to pull out all his paperwork. I said, put that away. Put it away right now. And I pulled out my passport, and I went to the border agent. And he goes, I show him my passport, and he goes, everybody in the car a U.S. citizen? I said, yeah. What are you doing in Mexico? We were down for the race, coming back. Yeah, okay, go ahead. And I drove Brad to San Diego Airport. And I dropped him off. And I said, I don't care what happens to you now. You get yourself home, talk your way onto a plane, and I'll see you in a few days. And I drove to Los Angeles.
Now, Joe, there's another part of this story you don't know.
What's that?
Somebody found that passport, and they're in our infirmary right now. It was RC that actually found Brad's passport, and that's how he's here today. True story.
I was actually born here.
Dang, you're killing my story. You weren't.
Sorry.
Where were you born?
The Bronx.
The Bronx? God, you're killing my story. That would have been awesome if it had been true.
That would have been good.
But
seriously, wouldn't that have been a great story?
That would have been like the
and then
Christmas
RC comes and he
serendipity.
finds where Brad's at. He's doing the thing. And we're so impressed by RC that he did that. And we just happened to ask him, do you know Photoshop? Do you have a camera? Have you heard of Lightroom? You know all three? You're hired. It could have been an amazing story.
You're here.
Cinderella story.
Well, the thing about Brad, the good thing about Brad was that I sat down with him when I got home, and he's such a good guy, and he's so talented. I sat with him. I said, all right, Brad, you just made all of your mistakes on the very first trip of your career with me. So now I'm going to look forward to a mistake-free Brad for the rest of time. And we shook hands on it, and he spent another couple of years with the studio in a very fruitful and productive way. He was a great guy to work with, and then he ends up here.
Yeah, and he's been great here. He's,
Now, Joe, you just messed up my story, because at the end of that, I was just going to be like, and folks, now we know who really won the card game.
Hey, don't say that about Brad. Is awesome. Don't say that. Brad is a very talented person.
He's a super rock and roll shooter, and
Dude, he's a great writer too.
And he's
Brad's
great.
really good. If he has to write anything, he's awesome at it.
And he's actually done things like for me where he's seen a picture on my blog, and it's like, I don't know post-production, and he'll actually pull it off my blog, and he's actually retouched it a little bit and put it back on my blog, and then he sends me an email later. I said, kind of fixed a couple of things for you. I mean, that's a good guy, right? That's a good guy.
That is a good guy. He's a very good guy. Well, Joe, let's take one more question. Hey, before we do, we still have giveaways to do, and this is like our longest show of the year. But it's Joe McNally, so what the heck? And plus, that story of Brad's worth, we should excerpt that. I'm going to put that right next to the quote of the week that Kathy Porupski so deftly tweeted. You did tweet it, didn't?
You didn't give it to me, Scott, and no one seems to know.
She's right. We'll have to rewind the show, but that was such a great quote. It was. We'll rewind the show tomorrow. All right. So we have a PeachBit deal. So PeachBit gives us an ebook deal. Every week they pick another one. This book, and we're going to actually give away a copy of it here too, is Night Photography, and this is written by one of our buddies, Gabriel Biederman, who is great. His thing is night photography. He's led all kinds of night photography workshops, and he's led night photography photo walks at Photoshop World, and Gabe is just extremely awesome. So it's night photography from snapshots to great shots. They give a 40%. You can buy the ebook for $11.99. That is more than Joe spends on pain medicine in 14 minutes. And so go to peachbit.com/Kelby1 and enter the discount code Kelby1 and you get 40% off. All right. Let's take another question. You got anything? What do you got over there, RC? You always got tons of questions.
No, well, there's a lot of thank yous. There's a lot of please come to Atlanta. Where are your next workshops? People are asking about where can they find you next in person. There was a couple of those. I know you're doing Dubai. We're doing that.
Right, going to see our good friends in Dubai at Gulf Photo Plus in the first third of the year, March time. I have a couple of geographic things, but I have no. Actually, that's part of the visit here. We're going to work on maybe a couple of seminar dates for next year.
Yeah, tonight at dinner, Joe. We're going to work on that.
So hopefully we'll have some dates for Kelby.
Oh yeah.
And we just did the video classes too, so hopefully they'll be spinning out online pretty soon. So a bunch of stuff in the works for next year. Sorry, I'm not kind of locked and loaded on dates.
Neither are we, so it's okay. All right, let's see. Hey, also our giveaways. We're giving a giveaway a signed copy of Joe's The Moment It Clicks. We also have some other books here that we're going to be giving away today. I mentioned we're giving away Gabe's book, which we are. We have a copy of it here. We're also giving away Critiqued, which is inside the minds of 23 leaders in design. So each person gave their own critique. And then we have a GoPro guide to professional filmmaking using a GoPro camera. We're giving those all away today. And as Brad mentioned earlier, we're going to give away a ticket to one of my seminars. Just go to kelby1.com/webcast/contest. Choose the show, which is the grid. Give us your name and all that stuff. In the comments, tell us what you want to win. So if you want to go to my seminar in Columbus or in Richmond, I've never been to Richmond. No, not Richmond. Raleigh and Richmond. I think it's Raleigh and Richmond and Columbus. Those three places, Brad? All right, those three places. I've never been to Raleigh. I've been to Richmond, but it's been a long time. So if you want to go to one of those cities and you have a free ticket to go, you can go there. If not, if you think, I just want to go buy a ticket really badly, go to kelby1.com, click on live events. And let's see, RC says something.
No, I was just gonna say thank you so much to our in-studio audience. So we had Raouf, we had Latanya, we had Linwood, we had Kathy Porupski, we had Latanya's, Kathy's Danielle. Kathy's daughter was here with us, so thank you so much, guys, for stopping by. I did want to also mention a quick housekeeping note that we are going to be off from the show until January 7th. So that just came in from the producer. I figured we'd mention that as well.
So will we run a best of?
Yeah.
But we always do when we run a best of. We always run a Joe show because Joe shows are always the best. So instead,
we'll just do this.
Let's just run stills of Joe running through a field with his hair blowing, like slow motion little clips, like YouTube clips. We have a lot of those. I don't know why, but on one of the shoots, they went out to this field. I think it was out in New Mexico, and they just got Joe running through a field in slow motion, and we have like a 45-minute loop of it.
Did I have clothes on?
At times, but it was shifting. Anyway, it was a windy day, Joe. Things were out. Anyway, RC, last temperature check. How you feeling?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Getting excited for the holidays. I think it's gonna be a great time.
Well, we hope you feel better. It would be nice to, I would say, have you back next week, but you're on vacation and we're no grid.
No, I think we're good. I think I'm gonna be good.
He's saying bad stuff, isn't he?
No. My mind is just going into places that
You're looking at me, aren't you?
the grid can't go.
I know.
I love you, Joe.
Stop it. All right, Joe, where can people go? You write a blog, joemcnally.com/blog.
I do have a fun time doing that. I'm currently actually dropping things on the blog that I've been nominated many times to this black and white challenge. So we're kind of churning through some of our archive, and I'm doing pictures I've shot during my career. I'm also going to be doing publishing pictures from my student portfolio when I first showed up in New York
Oh, yeah?
in 1976. And that's going to be part of the black and white challenge as well. And then I'm going to do a version of like just shooting around. I've been shooting out on the streets a little bit, did some shooting in London. So I'm going to kind of do a 3-part black and white challenge.
Very cool. All right, Julio, where can we find you?
Kelby One blog. KelbyOne.com/blog.
How about Twitter? On Twitter.
At Julifro.
So he's a man of few words.
And lots of hair.
There we go. All right, it just looked like anything to tag it on there. All right, well, Julio, glad to have you here. Joe, as always, thank you so much for being on the show.
Very much.
It's always great to have you here, and I love your stories. I could listen to you talk about milk. Whatever your storytelling ability, well, you know what it is? You are a storyteller, whether you're holding a camera in your hand or you're talking and speaking or you're writing, because you're a hell of a writer. I think the moment it clicks is full of amazing pictures, but the stories that go with them just bring the pictures to a whole nother level. It's very much like what Jay did. It's like you admire Jay's work so much. Jay did in his book what you did in yours. It's like once you hear the story of what's going on, and not how it was lit, but the story behind it, it gets its own life.
Well, thank you.
So I hope you guys, we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. From all of us here at Kelby One, we'll see you in January 7th, and by then we'll hopefully be fully moved in. We want to share some pictures of our new digs and stuff. So we expanded the video. So behind us now are a whole nother set of studios. We have 7 studios here. We have a whole bunch more back there, including a theater where we're going to get Joe to do a class next year. We have a theater where we can have live audiences in.
Cool.
But we don't have the seating in yet. It's got stadium seating and stuff. But we'll be doing that next year, and then we've got our offices are all there. We've been in two locations for 10 years, and it drives us nuts. We're always driving back and forth between them. Now we're all in one big, long, giant building. So one. We are one. Kelby One. Have a happy holiday, everybody. Take care. Thanks, RC. Feel the love. Be the love. Make the love. Go to the gym. Go to the gym.